This is the Bears Barroom Radio Network. Parental discretion is advised.
Fantasy football, Goon, Goon and Tooch. 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 Fantasy football, Goon.
Touchdown, touchdown, touchdown.
Welcome to the Fantasy Football Goon podcast. We are live on MixLR, and I'm your host, Joey Two Scoops, the Goon, Joe Mandel, and joining me as always is my co-host and good buddy John Santucci, the Tooch, and we always have our special guest and fantasy royalty, Jeff Schwartz, joining us on the line. Jeff, how you doing, my friend?
I'm looking at this list of what you're going to feature today of wide receivers, and it's driving me crazy. I'm fine, guys. How are you?
Doing well, Jeff.
It's another week talking fantasy.
And we're getting closer and closer, and I'm getting more and more confused as the days go on. I guess we could hit with the situation in Dallas, can't we, Joe and Tooch? What the hell is going on?
Oh, yeah.
I think that's a great place to start, and you know, for everyone listening that hasn't heard, Zeke Elliott came out today and said he's not going to play this year if he doesn't get a new deal. Very much a Le'Veon Bell repeat situation.
But he was offered a new deal. Supposedly, there are three stooges of Zeke, Cooper, and Prescott. All were offered new deals. Actually, all three were offered two different kind of deals. Did you hear this, Tooch? Unbelievable. They were offered X amount of money or a performance contract. So in other words, I'll pay you what you want, but you got to deliver me what I expect.
Yeah, absolutely.
And by the way, I love that. I think the whole world should go to proof and performance, just like when I was a salesman in early days. I made money as commission.
Yeah, commission and fantasy and players based off performance.
Right.
You know, I think it rewards the players for doing well. And, you know, I think partially, you know, Zeke holding out is after seeing Le'Veon Bell last year. And, you know, I think Zeke is more worried about preserving his body than he is about making money right now to get that next big deal. And I don't know if he necessarily can afford to do that with all his off-the-field drama. What do you think, Jeff?
I think he won't play all year. I think there's stuff deeper to this, and they're hiding behind saying that he's holding out. I think that last accusation that he had against him, what was it, a couple of weeks ago in Mexico or something, I think that is so much deeper that they just would rather have him disappear for a year and come back next year. He's got 2 years left on his contract. He's not even 1 year. It's 2 years.
It's 2 years.
I mean, and if he holds out, at least Le'Veon Bell, it wasn't his rookie contract. You know, for Elliot, this is still his rookie contract. I mean, the owners are richer than God, and, yeah, I understand, screw the owners, but they're allowed to make some money, too. I sit back and see basketball figures say, how much is that team worth if they can pay $300 and some odd million a year to their whole team? I don't get it.
It's the
I
truth.
don't get any of this. I think it's going crazy. And somebody, take a ballsy owner to stand up to this, and a Jerry Jones, and it seems like his son, I don't know if you guys have noticed, is much more involved in this than he has been.
Yeah, I think he's kind of setting him up to be the next in line, you know?
Yeah. And I'm sorry, I think, and I know we're here to talk about wideouts, and everybody's got their pen and paper there, but one last thing that I want to say, Dak Prescott, of all people, doesn't deserve to play this game and not to be into camp.
Yeah, he has not performed.
Right. And look at where they took him, and he got lucky, and he then played very well. But come on, play a couple of years. quarterbacks have staying power. And then Cooper, what has he really done? Last year when he got to them, yeah, he really did well. Okay, they're probably offering him a lot of money, but
Sure.
This is ridiculous. So let's go. I'm going to throw it to you, Joe. I'm done pontificating. What are we focusing on today?
Let's do it. Today we're talking wide receiver rankings, gentlemen. I put up my rankings yesterday on fantasyfootballgoon.com. Today we are going to talk about the top 30 wide receivers, and then everyone else can go and check out the rankings on the website. But without further ado, gents,
let me ask you one question before you toss it to Tooch or whatever. I'm going to toss it to Tooch, who has won 1,753 times in the last 5 years.
Oh, geez.
Tooch,
I don't know about that.
Tooch, do you agree with the system of if you have a great quarterback, try to get his number one receiver, or if you have Antonio Brown last year, you had to get Ben Roethlisberger? I mean, I know there's different points of view. What do you think?
Do I believe in stacking? I think it's a good idea. I like to. If I can't, I can't. I usually stick to my draft board. There's players that I don't even have on my draft board just because of off-field or injury. Mm-hmm. So it's not always possible. But yeah, I mean, there's great duos to stack this year, man. I'll tell you that. I mean, I'm looking at Baker Mayfield and Odell Beckham and saying, oh my, Baker Mayfield is so good in the red zone.
Yes, he is.
He's number 2, only behind Drew Brees. And who's awesome in the red zone, Joe? OBJ.
Oh, no doubt. The guy is magic, and he's ranked really high in my rankings, and I think that's a great segue to kind of get into the top 5 of my rankings and kind of see what you guys think about it. So without further ado, let's just jump right into it, boys. At number 1, I have DeAndre Hopkins out of Houston. The guy is just a PPR machine, especially in PPR leagues. I mean, he is absolutely unreal. So, big fan of DeAndre Hopkins. Got Devontae Adams from Green Bay in there at number 2, who, Tooch, would you believe it if I told you that last year Devontae Adams was the top wide receiver in fantasy football?
Oh, yeah.
Was it my fault?
I don't know. We just lost Jeff,
Seriously?
but he's back.
Jeff.
I'm back. I'm just sitting here at my desk, same as I was last week. So, okay, I'm sorry, guys.
No, you're good. We were just saying that number 1, I had DeAndre Hopkins out of Houston. He's a PPR machine. And at number 2, got Devontae Adams in Green Bay, who Jeff, we talked last year. Devontae Adams, the top wide receiver in fantasy football last year.
Isn't that amazing? And the year before, you wouldn't want him on your team. I mean, and that's the way you take these. How many did you send today, Joe? I didn't count.
I sent 60? The top 60.
And you'll win that league, not with Michael Thomas, but you'll win with somebody that catches 6 touchdowns for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers that you take in the 10th round. I mean,
that's right.
It's unbelievable. When you look at yours, top, I mean, your next one, I might have an argument with. So go ahead.
I've got Odell Beckham Jr., who Tooch was just whacking off to at number at number 3.
Yeah. Well, I don't argue with your top 3. I like the top 3. I'm trying to think back, Joe, when Devontae Adams got drafted last year. I don't think he was drafted
probably
till
in the 4th or 5th
third
round.
or 4th round. Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah, definitely. He was a late 4th rounder last year.
I love Beckham. I think, I mean, but in reality, if Beckham saw your list, Joe, he'd be mad at you because he still thinks he should be number 1. The thing that works there for Beckham going up is the opposite of DeAndre Hopkins. Beckham has so many quality players around him, including another very good wide receiver on that team.
He's on this list
Mr.
too.
Landry. Yeah, Mr. Landry with Baker Mayfield's arm. I think Beckham's on ESPN for 16 weeks if he stays healthy. Which he won't, but that's neither here nor there.
Hey, it's a reason that they have Jarvis Landry as a backup, and I'll quickly touch on him for a second just because we're talking about the 2. I've got Landry ranked down at number 24. I feel like he's going to have a lot of value, especially if Odell if and when he inevitably goes down. But I think he's going to have even more value when Odell is on the field. So I like Landry as a high upside, low mid-20s ranked wide receiver. He was really good last year, but he was great for catching. He had like 9 grabs a game, but they were for like 50 yards. So,
well, Landry his thing. He plays the field. Hit me. I don't care. He plays in the middle where Odell's going to go down. I'm telling you, Tooch is right. I hate to give him credit, but the bottom line is Baker Mayfield and Beckham with Nick Chubb's in the backfield, with Landry over there. Look out. Aren't we supposed to be that way and hope that somebody shines? I think Beckham, if he stays healthy, and we shouldn't ever say that anymore, if he stays healthy, because most of them don't, some of them do. But I think Odell Beckham this year, how mad he was at the Giants, is going to have a Hall of Fame career, a Randy Moss 22 touchdown type of season. That's what I predict for Beckham.
Hey, it's a possibility, and he is a top tier talent. I can see Tooch on the other end of the camera, and this is exactly what he looks. He looks like this right now. He's real excited about Odell.
Who wouldn't want to have him? Go Brownies. Okay.
Yeah.
But let's move on the rest of the list, Jen. So we have at number 4 on my list the top paid wide receiver in all of football as of last week. Michael Thomas in New Orleans. He was so dominating last year. I really like what I saw out of him, and I think he really is a top-tier talent. I have him at number 4, but he has every bit of potential to finish the year as the top fantasy receiver. Tooch, I know you like Michael Thomas a lot. What did you see out of him last year, and what are you expecting this season?
Well, 147 targets last year. If he gets 140, that's very possible this year. He had 9 touchdowns. I see room for a couple more touchdowns. I'm fine with him as a number 1, and I like where you have him. Drew Brees, number 1 in the NFL in the red zone efficiency. So Michael Thomas, of course, they added Jared Cook at tight end. That could eat into some of his targets. Jared Cook had a really good year last year.
Yeah, and Drew Brees loves tight ends. And I mean, he's got 1 million kids, so I didn't mean it that way. He loves tight ends.
1 million kids, oh my God.
Phillip Rivers, too, right?
Yeah, exactly. Phillip Rivers with all the kids. Mm-hmm. And at number 5...
Phillip Rivers, wish he had... Go ahead.
No. I was going to say at number 5, I got Antonio Brown down in Oakland now. Derek Carr may be his quarterback, but there's no denying the fact that Antonio Brown is a legitimate top-tier talent in the NFL. He finds a way to get open, and he's just, he's the definition of stability. So if you're looking for a first-round pick and you want to be stable, you go with a guy like Antonio Brown if you can get him. Everyone's scared about, how he's going to be in Oakland, but don't forget this is a John Gruden-led offense. They're usually a potent offense that likes to feature the receiver, usually on slant routes or, getting open in the middle of the field. That's where Antonio Brown loves to make his money. So I'm looking forward to seeing Brown in an Oakland Raiders uniform, and I really think he's going to finish the year definitely in the top 5 at wide receiver. I think he's got a lot to prove, and I think those are the kind of guys you look for in fantasy to help you win a championship.
Problem I have with that is he's still not even practicing. They don't think he'll practice all season until the regular season. His contract's not signed, but supposedly that's not the reason. He's still a little banged up. I don't think Derek Carr is the type of quarterback that he's used to.
Sure.
I don't like the fact that they've had no workouts whatsoever together. Quarterback and his number 1 receiver is all about timing. That's what made Montana and Rice so strong, et cetera, et cetera. So the bottom line is if there's a quality receiver behind him, that maybe it won't be the same as name value, I'll be the putz that'll pass up Antonio Brown. And, 16 weeks later, I'll be wrong and crying in my soup. But right now, I don't like the fact that he's not working out with Derek.
Well, the guy you're talking about right now, Jeff, is Tyrell Williams. I think he's a guy that is going to be a good option in Oakland. I have him ranked at number 60, so we're not really going to talk about him much on the show, but I want to touch on the fact that he has a lot of upside, especially as a late round draft flyer, because Tyrell Williams, when he's working good, the kid is fantastic, and if he's playing behind Antonio Brown, he's going to have some opportunities. So I think he's a great sleeper candidate right there.
Yeah, I agree. Tyrell Williams, he's barely even getting drafted. You can get him in the 13, 14, 15th
next
round.
to last round before the round before your kicker.
And you're getting a number 2 wide receiver, on a team, which at that late, that's value.
It is value.
Even though, don't forget, if they get 30 touchdowns for the season, 28 would all be my rookie running back, so don't worry about that.
It's a strong possibility, but you never know.
Talked about him last week. All right, I'll shut up.
And rounding out starting my number 6 rankings here, I got who I think is a great value here is Julio Jones at number 6. The guy has been so good, so consistent, and he has had his injury problems in the past, but I think what you get out of Julio when he's healthy makes up for what you get when he misses his 2 or 3 games. And I'm a huge fan of Julio Jones. I love him right here. And then after that, at number 7, I got Tooch, one of his favorite wide receivers in the league, just because he's helped Tooch win probably 1 or 2 championships. And I'm talking about
And
Tyreek.
by the way, if you didn't play, you still had fun watching him. He is so much fun to watch as a wide receiver.
Yeah, also had 22 rushes, which led all wide receivers, and 1 touchdown rushing as well. Returns kicks and punts. Yeah, it's a good value.
And of course, we're talking about Tyreek Hill, who has had a lot of off the field drama this offseason. For those of you who don't know, he was accused of hurting his son badly, I think breaking his arm or something, and there was a league investigation into it. And his girlfriend / wife, I'm not sure exactly what, said
baby mama.
His baby mama. There you go.
Baby mama.
said he did some things, and the league investigated, and they became unconclusive. So right now, Tyreek Hill is not facing any suspension, but there is a little bit of shadow of doubt over his name, just because of all those accusations, and I think that might drop him a little bit in your draft. But the way it looks right now is he's not going to be suspended, and he is a quality player. He is the top receiver on that offense. He's got Patrick Mahomes throwing in the ball. Dare I say, he is the value pick of the top-tier wide receivers right now. He's going to be hanging out, and people are going to be a little wary, and I think that's when you pounce on him. Jeff, what do you feel about Tyreek Hill?
Well, about Tyreek Hill, I forget about the past. If the NFL didn't suspend him, didn't do it, they have nothing, and they're never going to find anything. It's the NFL. They would find something. The bottom line is, you said it, Joe, he's got Patrick Mahomes. I'll do a little Spaceball fast look into next week when you do your top quarterbacks. When we do our top quarterbacks, I'd have Patrick Mahomes leading the league again with touchdowns. And you got to love Tyreek Hill. And I just love watching him play. I hope what claims were made aren't true, because child abuse is next to the worst thing you could ever do.
Agreed.
And I mean, I'm just going to forget about that part of it because it seems like the NFL has.
That's right. The NFL has forgotten about it. And, obviously Tyreek's going to have a lot of eyes on him. So hopefully he can, get his act together and be a better all-around human being. And hopefully a fantasy stud for all of us who draft him. But
the off the field stuff, Joe, makes me not want to draft him, even though he's helped me win championships before. I want to go back to Julio for a second. He was the target leader last year with 170.
Yeah.
1,677 yards receiving, and they're going to throw the ball, man. They got, what's his name, Dirk Cotter, who never saw a pass play he didn't like. They got the toughest schedule against the run. They've got an easy schedule against the pass. So Matt Ryan and Julio Jones, Jeff, very stackable. Yeah.
And don't forget, you still have who's on the other side of him, Ridley. He is not
Calvin Ridley,
worked out. He is not yet worked out, he being Julio. But Julio last week said he thinks he might go for 3,000 yards.
I'd love it if he did.
He is. if there's a receiver in the NFL that could get 2,000 yards, it's Julio Jones. And now we have to go back to how we started the show because of Matt Ryan. No matter how good a wide receiver is, you still have to have a quarterback that knows how to throw the ball. And Ryan is a very underrated. I don't know why, because he's no flash. I don't know why Ryan doesn't get any recognition like the other ones. But
it's a great question.
Drew Brees and Phillip Rivers never got a lot of attention in fantasy. We all had to have Tom Brady. We all had to have Rivers and Favre and Rodgers and everything else. So whatever, I think it's a great pick, and I love Julio Jones, but I'm still keeping Odell at the top of my wide receiver, and I'll put Julio second.
Well, I'll tell you, Jeff, a little story. Last year I drafted Patrick Mahomes in both my leagues late.
Why?
And,
where did you draft him, may I ask?
9th round, I think, in the Barroom League, Joe. And,
that's correct, the 9th round. By auto pick.
I ended up trading him for Matt Ryan, who finished as the number 2 fantasy quarterback, and Kareem Hunt, because I needed running backs. So I ended up trading Patrick, but I finished second in the Barroom League, only losing to Ryan Heckman. It was close. I could have won if I had made one different start. But
Tooch, the one thing you said, you got him in the 9th round. But my question was in the Barroom, and this is a little learning for me. When did the top wide quarterback start to go? In the 3rd round, in the 5th round? Who was the first quarterback?
The first quarterback taken last year was, I believe, Aaron Rodgers was taking at the tail end of the 2nd round.
Yeah,
a little early for him.
And the 2nd, maybe 3rd,
Yeah. Okay, but were you a 12-man league last year?
We were a 12-man league last year. This year we are a 14-man.
Yeah, I know. I'm biting. You know what? There's people down here at number 58 are going to be my 2nd-round pick.
It's a possibility.
But that's how you win.
That's how you win.
No matter.
Right.
We want to have Julio Jones. We want to have Odell Beckham. We want to have Tyreek Hill. But we're not going to win. You say you won because of him. Yeah, but he was your top receiver, your second receiver. It's when, I still remember one Thanksgiving. I'm sitting there. The whole family's at the house, and it's the Cowboys versus the Vikings. And it was me versus my brother-in-law. And it was the game, that Randy Moss, was it 4 touchdowns or 5?
I believe it was 5, wasn't it?
I think it was 5. I mean, I didn't have that many points for the whole week as my brother-in-law just got out of Randy Moss. And I had to sit there with him the entire dinner, the entire cleanup, and I just wanted to cry.
That is the exact worst situation in the world.
Yeah. I stopped. I do not watch. It's like if I was there in Chicago, Joe or Tooch, you guys invited me over. If I'm in the league with you, no way. No
dice?
No dice. I watch it as I'm like an old, weird man that sits in his basement. The only difference is now I'll have a computer over here. I have one of my iPhones over here to check scores. That is the illness that I have. Checking scores, and more scores.
I think we all drain our batteries on Sundays.
Don't forget, I started this, gentlemen, youngsters that I may call you. I started this the first couple of years. There weren't even computers.
That's right, pen and paper, baby.
And we used to go, what was it called? You know what? Although, if you're listening, I know you'll know this. What was the thing called where you'd call up on a sports phone or something like that? And you'd call up and it'd be an update on a reel of all the updated scores.
Man, times change, huh?
Yeah, times change, and I'd sit there, oh my God. And now I can't even enjoy watching a game because I'll be watching the game and they got the scroller down below and I'll see Michael Thomas just scored a 69-yard touchdown pass. Well, guess what? I don't have Michael Thomas. I don't have Drew Brees. And now It's crazy. All right.
It is
Guys,
crazy.
I'm going to give you both to your show and tell our listeners, see you next week when it's the quarterbacks and I think tight ends. But the bottom line here is I just want to focus on one person, and it's down here. Joe, where do you have Sterling Shepard?
Sterling Shepard, I have very far down.
Number 35. You know what? I won't even draft Saquon Barkley. I think that's how screwed up the Giants are this year.
Wow.
Man.
And I
He's the
came
best
in
player
second.
in the
I
league.
feel like Tooch. I had him last year, and he got me all the way to the championship game. He was a tremendous pickup for me.
He sure was.
I just worry, it's the Giants. New York should be happy. Their baseball teams are surviving. Their football and basketball still suck. Guys, I'll talk to you next week. Have a great rest of the show.
All right,
Baseball, thank you so
Thanks.
much, everybody.
guys.
That's Jeff Schwartz.
Talk to you next week.
Thanks, Jeff. Yep, see you next time. All right, that was Jeff Schwartz, everybody. And, man, we're so honored to have Fantasy Royalty on the show with us all the time. If you guys don't know, he had the first ever fantasy football radio show. He told us what year. It's slipping in my mind, Tooch. You might remember. 1980-something. Probably before I was born, probably.
I think it was 94.
Okay. Well, I was a wee lad.
It was the early 90s because that was when the score started. It might have been, 91, 92. I can't remember exactly, but I'm pretty sure the score started in the 90s.
Aldo in the chat room says 1904. I love it, Aldo. I love it. For those of you listening, we also have Tyler Ellis, the Gaines Report, joining us. So I'm dialing him back up to see if he can get back in. He's on the road heading from Illinois back home. So, he's probably driving through the mountains right now. But while we try to get him on the line, Tooch, let's just keep going through this list a little bit.
All right.
So we left off, we just talked about Tyreek Hill at number 7. I got at number 8, Tooch, I got Keenan Allen, who is one of the best wide receivers in the league. He's not the biggest guy, but man, he catches a ton of balls from Phillip Rivers over the middle of the field, and he just continues to score in the red zone. So I love him at number 8. The top 10 is just so loaded. You can't really go wrong with any of these guys.
Right. Now, Keenan Allen, I wonder how Melvin Gordon holdout's going to affect him. I might have Juju a little bit higher. I'm big on Juju this year. Antonio is gone. All 169 targets are out there, and Juju is a yak monster, man. He's so strong.
He is. He's great.
He's a great route runner. His hands are so strong. Yards after the catch. Juju, I think he could. His ceiling is finishing as the number 1 overall in the league receiver.
He
That's
really
just
can.
Fun. His floor is high too, but
I love Juju. For those of you who don't know, I have Juju ranked at number 10 overall wide receiver, and I just don't know. I'm not 100% confident that he can repeat what he did last year. I love him. I still think you can take him where he is. I have no problem with you taking him, between 8 and 10 overall wide receiver. I'm just being a little cautious with him. I just think the guys I have in front of him are better. And the guy that I have right in front of him, Tooch, at number 9 is T.Y. Hilton, a kid who has been unreal when Andrew Luck is healthy. And Luck looks like he's back to being fully healthy. He's still dealing with a little bit of shoulder soreness and whatnot, but nothing compared to what it was last year. So what can you expect out of T.Y. this year, and are you as high on him as I am?
Oh, I'm high on him for sure. He's so consistent year after year. He had the injury a year or two ago. Luck right now, he's got a calf injury. I think has been bothering him. He might not play much, if at all, in the preseason. But
can't blame him, really.
T.Y. Hilton is a number 1 receiver on an offense that you want a piece of. The Indianapolis Colts. Their offensive line is great. They were going to have a good offensive line this year. And Andrew Luck had a resurgence last year, finished with 39 touchdowns. They're going to throw the ball. They have an up-and-coming defense, too, the Colts, and we'll talk about that.
They do.
Defense. So they're going to have lots of opportunities. And T.Y., He's so consistent. He and Keenan Allen, I know you have them right next to each other. They're both consistent, but they both have had injury problems in the past. They're getting, older.
They have. Yeah, they're getting older for sure.
Yeah, Julio Jones is getting older. He's up there. The young guys like DeAndre Hopkins, Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill, those guys are going to still perform. I mean, Michael Thomas is still super young. I mean,
sure.
He's only, third year in the league?
Yeah, and Aldo left a great stat here in the chat room. Aldo says Juju saw 166 targets in 2018. That's best. That's fourth best in the league. So and that's with AB there for a chunk of the season before he got hurt and all that jazz. So Juju could eclipse a crazy amount of targets this year. I wouldn't be surprised to see him get over 200 targets.
Yeah, or 190. I was going to say would be a good number. There's going to be a few guys who are going to benefit from the void that Antonio Brown left. One of them people think is Vance McDonald at tight end. Another guy is Jalen Samuels, who could have a James White type role on the Steelers. James Conner, of course, he'll probably catch 40, 50 balls. James Conner, underrated back out of the backfield, catching the ball.
I love James Conner.
James Conner, the more I look at him, the more he's just got such a high floor. He's going to get the volume. There's nobody really behind. There's Samuel's going to come in and get that third down role for sure. And then there's Benny Snell, who's probably going to just spell Connor or come in and carry the load if Connor's injured. So Connor missed a couple games last year due to injury. But I just think Juju, he's just so strong, Joe. His hands, he is a yak monster.
He's a monster, and he's young, and he's strong, and
watch out.
He's going to be fantastic. The reason I have him ranked so low, and I still think top 10 is amazing in the league. I just have a hard time believing that he can replicate exactly what he did. I hope he proves me wrong, because I'm probably going to end up drafting him
last year.
Yeah, I had him last year, and I rode that train, and it got me a championship in one league, which was great.
I wanted him last year. I loved him coming out of the draft. I think what's going to happen. Here's what's going to happen. In the first round of most drafts, there's going to be a majority running backs. There's going to be a large handful of number one wide receivers, a lot of your guys in that top 10, and one tight end. And that's how it's going to go. You're going to decide, hey, where am I in this draft? I'm picking here. This is what I think people are going to, if they're smart, what they'll do. They'll take a wide receiver if they're picking a certain spot. They'll get that number one and come back and get the running back in the second round. The people who are towards the top are going to get, Saquon Barkley, Christian McCaffrey. They're going to take those safe, running backs. And
they need the wide out on the way around, yeah.
And they'll get the wide out in the second round. Somebody's going to treat Travis Kelce as a number one wide out, which is basically where his stats put him. So that's what I think is going to happen in most every draft.
And it's a great year, Tooch, to have that number 10 pick in a snake draft, or whatever the last pick of, if you're a 12-man, a 10-man, a 10 or 12 pick.
Absolutely.
If you have a snake, this is the year you want that snake pick. If you can get two top 15 players, you're looking really pretty. That first round pick this year, I don't love the first round pick because you got to wait. You do get the snake pick when it comes back around.
Yeah.
But at that point, you're kind of like, fishing for
25th, 26th type player. 24, 25.
That's why I love getting overall the last pick in every league, man. Because I usually do snake leagues.
You got to make that first pick. If you pick a number one overall, you better be taking Saquon or Christian. That's what I'm saying. Especially if it's PPR or half PPR, you got to take one of those two guys to make that spot work.
You got to take the safe pick. But I think towards the middle of the rounds or towards the end is when you take the the risky pick. And for everyone listening, we'll get a little bit further into this later on. So next week we'll be talking about quarterbacks, tight ends, and defenses, and the week after that, Tooch, we're going to be talking about draft strategy. So make sure you guys tune back into that.
I just blew my wad there, Joe, with the little strategy, but hey.
You did? Oh, there it is. He's really excited over there right now, guys. But anyway, we're getting off track, but had to talk a little bit about draft strategy there. And Trying to remember where the heck I left off. We were just talking about
We
Juju.
talked about Juju, so we're moving on to the next.
The number 11, my
right.
number 11 ranked wide receiver is Amari Cooper out of Dallas. I know a lot of people will disagree with me on that, but I don't think you can deny with what he did when he came over. He's heavily targeted. He's a PPR machine. And in fantasy, that's really all you can ask for. They have Jason Witten back that I think is going to open some things up. And it looks like we have someone else joining us right now, Tooch.
Oh.
We got Tyler Ellis, the Gaines Report, in the house.
Oh, baby. Hi,
What's up?
What's going on,
What's up,
fellas?
Gaines?
Gaines driving through the mountains.
I just crossed state lines, the Mason-Dixon line. Just got back to Maryland.
All right. Oh, Western Maryland is beautiful, man. I drove through there one time, taking all back roads from D.C. to Chicago.
Well, it looks like we might have... I think we might... Tyler, I think you're freezing up a little bit, so I'm going to try to give you a call back on your cell phone. We're going to see if that works instead of Skype, so bear with me for 1 second, bud.
Yeah, I want to talk about Amari Cooper and Mike Evans, who you have down here. Amari Cooper, I'm still kind of a little afraid of just because of how, he kind of disappears for spells. I'm fine with him as a number 2 wide receiver, as a number 1 wide receiver. I don't know, but that's just me. Mike Evans, I'm fine with as my number 1 wideout on a fantasy squad. Now, they're going to throw the ball a ton, the Buccaneers. Bruce Arians is there. Bruce Arians made Carson Palmer look like an all-pro. So, I mean, Jameis Winston might not be a bad pick at quarterback. I'm telling you, Tampa Bay's got the preseason number 5 easiest schedule against the pass. They're also going to have opposite of Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, who's going to, Bruce Arians says, will never leave the field. He's going to line up on all 3 wide receiver spots. Could end up as a number 1 wide receiver on somebody's squad.
I've got Godwin ranked. I'm trying to remember where I have him on this list. Let me scroll down to see where I got Chris.
I got
20. I got him ranked at number 20. So yeah. I really like Chris Godwin this year. I think he's a guy that's going to give you a lot of value, especially for where he's going to be. But I think we got Tyler back on the line. Gaines, are you there, buddy?
I'm here, brother.
There he is. He sounds much better now. I got him on the cell phone.
There we go.
So what's going on, bud?
Can't stop greatness, brother. No, man, I'm pumped up, bro. Pumped up, man. Saw my guys Anthony Miller, A.R. Robinson, showing love at Soldier Field on Saturday, man. I'm all types of pumped up.
He's all types of pumped up, and I love it. So just to catch you up with where we're at, Gaines, we just talked about we're in the top 12. We just talked about Mike Evans ranked at number 12 is where I have him. And the next guy on the list here I got to talk about here is Adam Thielen, ranked at number 13. He's a guy that a lot of people last year, kind of got lucky with, and he ended up being one of the top wide receivers in football. So, Gaines, I know he's a Minnesota Viking, but what do you feel about our guy Adam Thielen?
An absolute beast. I had him on 3 different of my leagues last year. I drafted him late. Because I kept on him fall. I picked him up late in the draft, and then he's an absolute threat. We don't like the quarterback that much. We don't want them to succeed, but he's
right.
He's great. He gets great separation. He can catch. He's a great red zone threat. Not talking about Bears, but in terms of fantasy, he has great value. Great value up and down the chain. That's what you want from a wide receiver 1. You have an opportunity to get him. Definitely grabbing him for sure.
It's all you could ask for that late, and I have him ranked at 13. I think that's a great value, and I forgot to play it when we brought Gaines on, Tooch, but I got a little bit of a sound clip I arranged for the introduction of Gaines.
Let's be realistic for a minute. Am I cooking, huh? I mean, take a look at this, huh? Is this what's happening in professional wrestling, huh?
Very cocky. A lot of charisma.
The most well-known, the best-looking, the best-dressed, custom-made Gold around my neck, Rolex watch around my wrist. My shoes cost more than your house. Drive a Lincoln Continental, a Mercedes, a Rolls, own a Corvette, live in the biggest house on the biggest side of town. Jet airplanes. And I got a limousine sitting out there a mile long with 25 women just dying for me to go.
Woo!
Yes.
That's family right
I
there.
love it. I love it. My man.
I got Ric Flair for my guy Gaines.
Oh,
I
man.
love it, brother. Much appreciated, Joey. 2 scoops. Let's go, baby.
I had to hook him up and had to introduce Gaines with some energy, so I figured Ric Flair was a good opportunity for that. But Gaines,
Definitely appreciate it, brother.
no problem, man. And I know you're a guy, Gaines, that always likes the underdog. And I don't know if there's a bigger underdog than I have ranked at number 14 at wide receiver. I've got Julian Edelman from New England. Gronkowski's gone. Edelman is just a dog. He goes in there, he gets it, he goes in the middle of the field. He's gritty. And I'm a huge fan of Julian Edelman. He gets a ton of targets, and he did his best when Gronkowski was not on the field. So that's setting him up for success this year. Tooch, how do you feel about Julian Edelman?
They had 1 million catches in the Super Bowl. Yeah, he was gritty. He'll be their number one wideout. There's other guys that you could look at, too. Maurice Harris getting a lot of press at camp this year. James White, of course, catches a lot of balls as well. Tom Brady makes make the most of what he's got. I love them. Last year for me, it was money was Adam Thielen, Joe. He was just money.
He was money, and the second half wasn't as good, though.
Stephon Diggs, I think, could have a better season than Adam Thielen had last year. I know Kirk Cousins is going to have his second year in this offense. So
Yeah.
I expect a little step up for Kirk. I'm not, of course, I hate the Vikings and I hate Kirk Cousins, but I expect him to do better. He's a 4,000-yard quarterback almost every season. But Stephon Diggs, if he can stay healthy, he's the better of the two. Adam Thielen lines up in the slot a lot, and that's what NFL offenses do. They take advantage of the slot cornerback. That's what the air raid offense, which we'll talk about in a little bit. If you got one of those guys, I want to talk about the air raid offense of the Arizona Cardinals a little bit later, Joe.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and we'll definitely get into that. But let's get on in. Real quick, I want to touch on, Aldo was talking in the chat room about how Adam Thielen kind of fell off in the second half. He's saying after his hot start, he was wide receiver 23 in fantasy week 9 through week 16. So yeah, he really fell off. He had all those 100-yard games back to back, and he fell off. He's a completely capable wide receiver. That's why I dropped him outside my top 10. But he's got the potential. We've seen him do it. And let's be honest, the guy is just a great story and an even better person and player. So keep an eye on Thielen.
Yeah, you want him as a wide receiver too, though, Joe, ideally.
I feel much better about him as a wide receiver too, no doubt. And I'm sure Aldo would agree with that. But let's talk about my number 15 guy, Tooch. And some people are telling me I have him way too high, but I know you and I really loved him last year. Robert Woods on the Rams. He kind of came out of nowhere last year to kind of burst onto the scene. We always knew he was a quality wideout, but he was getting open. Jared Goff had a good relationship with him. He got even better after Cooper Kupp went down. And let's be honest, he's the clear-cut number one, at least to me, in LA. Even with Brandon Cooks on the roster, I really like him, and it's pretty close, but I like Robert Woods, by a pencil over Brandon Cooks because he gets open. What do you think, man? Am I crazy?
No, they're like right there next to each other for me. Here's the thing: Robert Woods, when he was in Buffalo, he was an unknown. It's a completely different person with the Rams, completely different player, and that's coaching. The Rams are an offense you want a piece of. Brandon Cooks, though, he has had 4 straight seasons with over 1,100 yards. Now, last season, Brandon Cooks, he had 15 yards per catch average and 22 catches of longer than 20-plus yards. So Brandon Cooks, maybe not as consistent as Robert Woods. Brandon Cooks more of the big play receiver, but Robert Woods' floor, very high.
Yeah, and I would tend to say that Robert Woods is the better PPR play, and Brandon Cooks is better in traditional scoring leagues. But, I think they're going to be pretty close, but I like Robert Woods just a little better. And for those of you wondering, I have Brandon Cooks not that far behind. I believe I have Brandon Cooks at number 19, so I have him a few spots away. At number 16, guys, I got a guy that a lot of the Bears Barroom folks aren't going to like there, but I have Kenny Golladay at number 16. The kid just really took a big step forward last year. The Lions don't have a whole lot to work with, and he's one of those guys that just finds a way to get open. So I think just because of volume and his speed, I really like Kenny Golladay. Tooch, I think one of our leagues last year you had Kenny Golladay, right? Because I know I had him in the other one. Did you have Golladay last year?
I did, and I tried to trade for him. I wanted him. He's great in the red zone. I mean, they're going to
really
be
good in the red zone.
Playing from behind a lot, Detroit. So, I mean, these guys, him and Marvin Jones are going to have no lack of opportunity. I like both these guys. I'll have them. Kenny Golladay, could he be a number one wide receiver on your team? Sure. You'd be a lot better off with him as a number 2, but he's got the potential to be a number 1 wide receiver on your team for sure. Now, Marvin Jones, of course, is going to get plenty of opportunity too. Like I said, Detroit's probably the 4th place team in this division. They're going to be playing from behind. Lots of opportunities for both those wide receivers as Stat Padford, throws from behind. He's Mr. Garbage Time this year, Joe.
Yeah, he'll be our Blake Bortles of this season for sure. But I really like Kenny Golladay, and I got to go forward with number 17. We talked about Stephon Diggs. I think he's going to be great alongside Thielen. Don't got to touch on that much longer. But Tooch at number 18 is a guy that you and I, really love, and every year we talk about him. I'm talking about Emmanuel Sanders. You have Vic Fangio taking over as head coach down there. You have Joe Flacco now as your quarterback, who likes to find his open guys over the middle, and that's where Emmanuel Sanders loves to live. So I think Emmanuel Sanders is going to feast this year with Flacco as his quarterback. He's got Cortland Sutton on the other side of the field to help him open things up. But Tooch, I got to talk about it. I don't know if you heard about this in training camp the other day for the Broncos. Cortland Sutton and Emmanuel Sanders got into a brawl, and they had to be separated. They were throwing punches. So you got to wonder what's going on in that locker room, and do you think it's going to have an effect on their performance on the field? I mean, what do you think about that?
I don't think it'll matter. It's a little high for me for Emmanuel Sanders. He's a little bit banged up now. He's in his 30s now. But man, I've had Emmanuel Sanders on my team. He's an excellent route runner. Gets great separation. He's quick as a blink.
Absolutely.
I just don't know with Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco, he's a step up from last year, that's for sure. But Cortland Sutton, man, I like him. He's probably going to be the number 1 wide receiver on that team. He dropped a lot of balls last year. He's got to prove it. But I'm fine drafting Emmanuel Sanders. I think he's more of a third wide receiver for me, a bench player, a third wide receiver. But he does have the potential to slip into that second wide receiver spot on anybody's roster.
See, I love Emmanuel Sanders. I think he could be a number 1 guy, but I'm drafting him as a number 2. I think if you get him as a number 3, you're doing really well. And the reason I drop, and you can
get him late this year.
I probably have him a lot higher than a lot of other ranking sites, but I really like Emmanuel Sanders. And I dropped Cortland Sutton all the way down to 45 on my list because of what Tooch talked about. He had the case of the dropsies last year, and he would like to run before he had the ball in his hand. So he's going to have to show me and prove it to me. I love Sutton as a late-round flyer. I think you could probably get Sutton in the 5th or maybe even late 6th round.
Well, he's going later than that. He's going in the 9th, I think, in some mock drafts I'm doing. 9th, 10th round. Just people are shy away from him. But, man, you draft him late, you might have a number 1 wide receiver. You slip him in your number 2 spot or your flex. But, yeah, Cortland Sutton is one of those guys I have my eye on as breaking out this year. Like Anthony Miller, of course, could be a dangerous pickup this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And we talked about Chris Godwin a little bit earlier in Tampa Bay, but he's a guy that's going to go out there play after play and find a way to get open. And Chris Godwin, people keep calling me crazy, but I have him ranked at number 20. I think he has the potential, if all the cards fall his way, to finish the season as a top 15 wide receiver. He's a really talented guy. Jameis Winston is a great quarterback when he is focused. So as long as he's staying, his head is in the game, he doesn't have to worry about Ryan Fitzpatrick. He's gone. So I think it's, he knows it's his team this year. So let Jameis Winston do his thing. I think Chris Godwin is a great fantasy option.
Yeah, I do too. I love that pickup, man. If you have him as your number 2, you're going to be pretty pleasantly surprised. I think he's this year's Adam Thielen. 7 touchdowns, only 59 catches last year. He finds the end zone. He's going to line up in the slot a lot. So Bruce Arians, great coach, offensive mind, and they don't have that great of a defense, so they're going to be airing it out, Joe.
Yeah, no, they're going to be airing it out, no doubt about it. And I'm going to do a little quick fire here because we're approaching the tail end of our show, about 10 minutes left. But really quick, Tyler Lockett I have ranked at number 21, and people forget Doug Baldwin has retired. He's gone, and everyone's immediately giving that number 1 receiver role to DK Metcalf. I don't think Metcalf's that good of a route runner. I think he's a big guy, but I don't think he's going to be the number 1 wide out there. It's Tyler Lockett to me. The kid is fast, the kid gets open, and he runs great routes. Russell Wilson's going to find him. I love Tyler Lockett. People are really sleeping on him this year. He's a guy that you can snag probably late, like we were just talking about, Tooch. He's probably going to be available, 7th, 8th, 9th rounds, and I think you're getting a steal if you can grab him. I mean, do you like Tyler Lockett too, Tooch?
Well, he's a number 1 wide receiver. Now this team, they're gonna run the ball. They're committed to the run this year.
Yeah.
But Tyler Lockett, 10 touchdowns last year. And he and another Tyler Boyd, I think, will be the number 1 wide receivers on their teams. Either one of those guys, you get it as your number 2 wide receiver, you're looking pretty good. I don't know if I'd want Tyler Lockett as my number 1 wide receiver just because Seattle doesn't throw the ball as much, although their quarterback is – if he's the most efficient quarterback in the NFL, I think. He does so much with so little from Russell Wilson. But, Tyler Lockett, I think it's fair where you have him. He's going to put numbers up this year because he's pretty much the only game in town there.
For sure. And you mentioned Tyler Boyd. I have him ranked just below at 23. And, he was great in Cincinnati. A.J. Green is dealing with that knee injury. He's apparently going to be out 6 to 8 weeks. So at least for the beginning of the season, it's going to be, the Tyler Boyd show. So I love what you get out of him. He's a great guy to have as your number 2. If you have him as your number 3, you're doing really well. And the guy I have sandwiched between those 2 guys, we talked about just for a little bit, but I'm talking about Cooper Kupp. He's coming back from that terrible torn ACL injury. But, the kid runs such a smooth route. He's quick. He gets out there. And let's be honest, Cooper Kupp is a gamer, and he's a guy you want on your team. I know people are concerned about him coming back from the injury, but I really think we can expect a lot out of Cooper Kupp. Am I putting too much faith in him, Tooch?
He's kind of off my draft board, Joe. I'm sorry. I don't like him coming off the injury. And Brandon Cooks and Robert Woods I'd rather have. And watch out for their tight end this year, Gerald Everett. But I love DJ Moore. I know you've got him down a little bit. This kid, man, watch out for this kid. He is an excellent route runner. He is so athletic. He's so smooth. Had a long catch of 82 yards last year. I would take DJ Moore over Cooper Kupp. That's just me. But Cooper Kupp, man, like you said, I've had him before on my team. And, I love him as my 3rd wide receiver. But
if
he's
off
healthy,
the injury,
I don't know. I'd like to see. I'm going to wait and see on him right now with what he does in preseason, how he looks.
Yeah. So my ranking is assuming that he's healthy. Obviously, my rankings are fluid, right? So as I watch the preseason, I'm gonna update them and move through that. But if Cooper Kupp's healthy, that's where I have him. Yep. We mentioned A.J. Green. I have him ranked right below DJ Moore at number 28. I think Green is a great value. He's gonna be huge when he comes back. He won't be back probably until, I think best case scenario, you're talking probably week 3, week 4. But I think he's a guy you can draft and feel good about, a guy. He's a first round, second round talent that you could probably get, Tooch? Probably with the injury in the 5th round, maybe even into the 6th?
Yeah. I like other guys ahead of him up there in the 5th. I mean, I want a piece of that Arizona air raid offense, Joe. Christian Kirk or Larry Fitzgerald, or they're gonna just be airing it out, Joe. The idea behind the air raid offense is to take advantage of the 3rd and the 4th cornerback on NFL defenses.
Sure.
Now, you got Larry Fitzgerald, who's been in the press saying he loves this new offense. It's probably his last year. And you have Kyler Murray, who ran this offense at Oklahoma. And you've got Christian Kirk, who's an up-and-coming wide receiver. You can get Kirk pretty late, 7th round. And he's the number one wide receiver on a team that's going to throw the hell out of the ball. They got the second easiest schedule against the pass preseason rankings. I love the Arizona wide receivers, man. I love David Johnson, too. I said that last week. David Johnson going to catch a lot of balls in that offense, too, and they're going to be playing from behind as well. You know, they're not that good of a defense. You're going to see the air raid off. You're going to see 300 yards a week for Kyler Murray, I think. Very possible.
It's a possibility, and I know we're in the last few minutes here, but go ahead, Gaines.
Hey, Joe, if that's the case, going off the you just said, will we see an emergence from Kevin White if that's the case?
Oh, great question. I love it.
You know, it's a possibility.
It's going to be rotating.
I don't have him on my radar at all, but he's definitely a guy you can monitor on waivers throughout the year. But all he needs is an opportunity, and you can see what can happen. But
that's a super.
There's another guy.
Super right there.
I don't know where you got him, Joe, but Allen Robinson really came on last week, and he's an excellent route
that's
runner,
who I was
man.
just going to talk about, Tooch. I got Allen Robinson ranked at number 31. I really think he's got a lot of upside there. I feel like I could probably have him a little bit higher, but I just kind of want to see, what we get out of him. I think if he continues on the path he was at the end of the year, if he keeps that path going, I think he's a top 25.
His last few games,
easily.
He looked fantastic. So we'll see. It's his second year in this offense. We've seen him put up 1,400 yards with Blake Bortles, Joe.
Well, I know our guy Gaines on the line has a lot to say about Allen Robinson. Gaines, what do you say?
I mean, he's locked in, bro. He's locked in. You saw him on Saturday at Family Fest. He's locked in. He's going with the standards, bro. He's helping his teammates grow. He's locked in with Mitch. We saw him at the most critical moments in the playoff game when it mattered the most. And so the thing about Chicago's wide receivers is when we talking fantasy, it's only so many balls that can go around. So it's about repetition and the numbers. And so that's what Allen Robinson as a wide receiver, straight wide receiver 1 all day. He's a beast. He's a 1,000-yard receiver. But the thing about Chicago is we have so many weapons. And so that's what worries me about Allen Robinson. But if I can grab him late, I would definitely stash him on my bench because when the weather gets cold, he's going to catch the ball in the red zone.
I agree. And Mitch looks his way in the red zone. And he looks his way a lot, to be honest. And we have to really see how Mitch handles the ball distribution this year, and I think that's crucial. But I still love Allen Robinson, best out of all the Bears wide receivers. And there's two other guys I want to touch on to round out my top 30. At number 29, I've got Will Fuller in Houston, a kid who looks like he's finally healthy. His hamstrings look like they're finally not going to fall off. And at number 30, I've got Mike Williams in L.A. Between Williams and Fuller, I think these are both quality guys that you can get towards the tail end of your draft and kind of stash them, and they have potential to be a quality 3 or even a low-end number 2. Gaines, I know you've had some of these guys in the past. We talked a lot about Will Fuller last year. How you feeling about Will Fuller, and do you think he can put it all together this year behind DeAndre Hopkins?
He might, man. He might be boom or bust. He might be boom or bust. I mean, this Houston altogether is like you just don't know what you're going to get. But with that, like you said, if his hamstrings can hold on, then he can be great. He could be a diamond in the rough, Joe. He could be a diamond in the rough. And so you know how I feel about the sleepers. So it's definitely worth the stash, for real.
Yeah, he's definitely a stashing guy. And I got Mike Williams ranked at number 30 in L.A. because, the guy behind Keenan Allen is always going to get some action, right? I mean, Keenan Allen is fantastic, don't get me wrong, but he's always good to be out probably 2 to 3 games. And who's that guy that's going to fill in? I really think that guy is going to be Mike Williams. So I know Hunter Henry
10 touchdowns last year, Joe. For
yes,
Williams.
he did.
Nothing to sneeze at. It's great in the red zone. No Antonio Gates there either.
Yeah, and I think we have Hunter Henry coming back healthy too, so he's a guy to keep an eye on as well. We'll talk about him a little bit next week. in the tight end section.
Yeah,
but
I got some sleepers, Joe, if you want to hear them. Some guys you might be hearing about later, you can get later on, that you may hear about later on in the season.
Who are they? Let's spit them out, Tooch. Who we got?
I look at Dante Pettis. He's a number 1 wide receiver on a team in San Francisco that loves to throw the ball.
Very good.
I mentioned Christian Kirk, of course. A guy, he might not be healthy yet, but later on in the season, there's a kid named Marquise Brown. He's on the Ravens. Now, this kid is blazing speed, a big play threat. He's the number 1 wide receiver right now on Baltimore. And I know people are a little down on Lamar Jackson, but we'll see Lamar Jackson step up his game. Let's wait and see. And then another guy.
Lamar's been stepping up camp.
Yeah. I like Lamar as well. And another guy lining up in the slot for Washington is a kid named Trey Quinn, who will be getting a lot of targets from Dwayne Haskins. And, of course, Jordan Reed over there, finally healthy.
Well, let's hope so. He's been riding in a wheelchair for quite some time now, every season for a couple games. But Jordan Reed, when healthy, is a quality tight end, no doubt about it. You got anybody else to fill out those sleepers, Tooch, or was that's the...
Well, seven touchdowns for Anthony Miller. I think he'd be a great pickup, a guy who could be a 3rd or 4th wide receiver on their team that could fill in at a number 2 spot with the ceiling at number 2.
Yeah, for sure. I can't argue with that, and I really got one wide receiver that I want to spotlight as a sleeper, and it's hard for me to believe that this guy is on sleeper status right now. But we got to talk a little bit about Kenny Stills, Tooch, because every year he's one of those guys that kind of flies. I was just about
to go there too, Joe. I was talk about the Dolphins, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, you got Ryan Fitzpatrick taking over that offense, and then they also traded for, a quarterback from Buffalo. What the heck?
Josh Rosen.
Josh Rosen, yeah. So
he came over from Arizona.
Yeah, regardless of which out of those two guys it is, I really think that Kenny Stills is their big play guy, and he's going to get a lot of work. So I think he's a great sleeper option.
Will Devontae Parker finally step up, Joe? He's looked good in camp. But
I don't know, man.
The guy I'm looking at over there is a guy who's going to be in the slot. He totally ate up the Bears last year. That was Albert Wilson. He is a fast guy and a great athlete. He's going to line up in the slot. Ryan Fitzpatrick loves a slot receiver. Watch out for Albert Wilson. You could get him in the 16th round.
Absolutely. And before we wrap things up here, Gaines, I want to throw it to you. If you have anything you want to add or anything outlook on the season, I want to see what you have to say about fantasy season coming up. How pumped up are you? I just want to feel you burst through that wall and come at me at my computer screen.
Joe, you already know. Don't do it to me, man. I just calmed down, and I'm just getting my voice back, bro. But it's going to be an epic fantasy season, bro, because with the guys coming in, it's so hard to judge because the rookies are getting better. The rookies are getting better, and they're asked to produce more early on. And so we start to take away value from the veterans maybe a little bit too soon. You made a very, very great point about Kenny Stills. He always seems to be that guy that makes those top 10 plays at the end of the year. And so it's like we gotta keep our eye on the sleepers. We gotta keep our guys that are engulfed into the system. It's going to be a great season. It's going to be a great season, but I think we're going to have to be sharp. The people that are going to some people play fantasy just for fun. We play to win. And if you're playing to win, first of all, you're doing a great job by listening to our show. That's one. Because winners listen to our show. So
That's right.
So if you lose, if you talk about season and you don't listen to our show, good job. That's what you deserve. That's what.
All right.
So number two, we're going from there. It's going to be exciting because it's so many weapons. Offense is being asked to produce more, but it's going to be. I can't wait till we get to the running backs and the tight ends because there's going to be a lot of tight ends getting a lot of touchdowns this year. I feel like there's going to be a lot of double tight end sets across the NFL, and a lot of people going to get a lot of different looks. I mean, we're talking. I got a guy on the Bears that's going to get more touchdowns. Because it's all about getting value at the lowest position. You don't have to spend a high pick on a guy if you can get him later on to get the same production. So
exactly.
After our draft, I'll talk about it more.
Absolutely.
I'll go into deeper detail. But it's going to be pretty exciting, man. It's an overall chess match, and it's all about winning that ring.
That's right, baby. It's all about winning that championship, and that's why everyone's listening to the Fantasy Football Goon podcast. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at FFBGoon. You can follow me at Joe Mandel. Tooch, where can people follow you on Twitter?
Follow me at Santucci_John, J-O-H-N.
And Gaines, where can people find you on Twitter?
You already know, baby. It's the Gaines Report, man. All day long. Gaines in all aspects of life. We're here to grow, man. Let's get it.
That's it. So you can find Gaines on Twitter. Thanks to our guest, Jeff Schwartz, for joining us. Spaceball, always the man. And the way we end every show, by the way, before we do that, next week we'll be talking about quarterbacks, tight ends, and defenses. So make sure you tune in for that. We'll catch you all next week. And the way we end every show, God bless America, God bless football, and let's kick some ass. Thanks for tuning into the Fantasy Football Goon podcast, guys. We'll catch you guys later. Time for us to get on out of here. I got another show to do. Make sure you tune in to Shy Fans in the Stands. We'll be coming up real soon. Coming up right after this. I got about 10 minutes to go to the bathroom, and then I got to get back to it.
Nice.
But all right, guys, here's our closing music. You may recognize it from the Sound of Music. We'll catch you guys next time.
So long, farewell, I'll be there saying goodnight. I hate to go and leave this pretty sight.